Well, meanwhile, Israel is stepping up its ground and air combat in Gaza. Israeli forces say they've hit about 250 targets in the Gaza Strip. That's over the past day, and intensified attacks on the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza. Israel has also ramped up its bombardment of southern Gaza's main city. The UN Relief and Works Agency there says there is no safe zone and nowhere left for civilians to go. Foreign correspondent James Longman joins us now from Tel Aviv, Israel, for more on this. Well, James, you know, Israel says Israeli troops are now face-to-face at combat with Hamas in southern Gaza, but resistance is continuing in the north despite claims. So what's the latest on this? Where are we?
Yeah, Morgan, look, the south is the focus of Israel's effort right now, but yes, there remains pockets of resistance in the north. You have to remember, so much of Hamas's operation is underground, so while much of northern Gaza has been flattened, entire neighborhoods brought to the ground, Hamas works and lives and operates underground, and a network of tunnels that goes for many hundreds of kilometers. So that is where some of their focus is right now. The Israelis, we were down on the border today. We saw plumes of smoke on the horizon in northern Gaza. I was also at an artillery position yesterday. Israeli artillery guns pointed at the north and at the central parts of Gaza as well. We're also hearing reports, this is on the Wall Street Journal is reporting this, citing US officials, that the Israelis are considering pumping seawater into the tunnels underneath Gaza to try to flush Hamas fighters out. 5 pumps apparently have been installed. Now, the IDF won't comment on this. It's very difficult to get any comment on actual operations from the Israelis on what they're doing. But if that happens, that would raise serious concerns not only about the hostages, who of course remain somewhere inside Gaza, but there are aquifers underground which provide clean drinking water to people. So it would be a humanitarian catastrophe as well. So yes, the focus of this operation is moving south, but Hamas remains a threat across the entirety of the Gaza Strip. Morgan?
Well, James, let's hang on that humanitarian crisis. We, of course, know that it's growing by the day in Gaza, but also around hospitals and across the region. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees says nowhere is safe for people in Gaza. So set the scene for us. How dire is the situation there right now, James?
Well, it's cataclysmic, Morgan. I mean, so many hundreds of thousands of Palestinians moved south in order to avoid the bombardments there. They now have arrived south, hoping to find safety, but that is now the focus of Israel's operation, so there isn't really anywhere for them to go. Aid is getting in, but much less than was getting in during the pause. 170 trucks were going in every day. Now fewer than 100 are getting in. But more than that, once the aid is in through the Rafah border crossing in the south of Gaza, it can't be distributed more widely because of the uptick in violence. And Khan Yunis, which is the major city in southern Gaza, that is the focus of the operation now. We spoke to a resident there who said that he didn't want to move because he doesn't trust the Israelis. They told him to move 5 times already. He's had to move. And he says to himself, well, where am I supposed to go? UNICEF only in the last few days has explained that the areas that the Israelis have told people to go to do not have functioning sanitation. There are no toilets, there's no water. Basically, there's open ground where people essentially have to camp. So Mohammed, who we spoke to, said, well, I prefer to stay in my home. At least I have adequate shelter and there is occasional running water. But of course, he's concerned, he's scared that any day Israeli troops could be on the streets outside his home, and he's hearing the bombardments getting closer to him. So yeah, nowhere in southern Gaza is safe, certainly, even though the Israelis say some of these major urban centers, particularly Khan Yunis, are where Hamas leadership is based. Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, he's from Khan Yunis, and there's no idea where he is. But, of course, the Israelis feel that they need to go to Khan Yunis to see if they can find him and other leaders of Hamas. Morgan?
Yeah, such a dire situation, James. Earlier on GMA, top spokesperson for the National Security Council, John Kirby, said that the U.S. believes 8 Americans are still being held by Hamas. The State Department says there are also more than 1,000 Americans and family members trying to leave Gaza. What more do we know about efforts to get them back home?
Well, let's separate out those two groups. First, the 1,000 Americans living in Gaza who can't get out. Now, these pauses, these humanitarian pauses, have provided an opportunity for dual nationals to get out of Gaza. Because of the uptick in fighting, that's not been possible for so many of them. We've been speaking to Americans, dual citizens, Palestinian Americans who are in Gaza who can't get out, and many of them feel that they've been let down by the US government. They're not getting information. They basically, what they do is they head south. They head to as close to Rafah border crossing as they can get, hoping that when a deal is done, they can get out. As for the Americans who are being held hostage, well, the hostage families here in Israel have been angry at Benjamin Netanyahu for, it's fair to say, this entire period, but particularly now that there's this resumption of fighting. There was a meeting last night that turned very, very tense, where Benjamin Netanyahu said to them, there is no chance right now of bringing your loved ones home. And a lot of these family members started shouting at him, saying they were angry that he wasn't prioritizing, in their view, their loved ones, and they felt that he could, if he wanted, put a stop to the fighting and get their loved ones home. He said it was much more complicated than that he wasn't being presented with a deal that he could accept. So at the moment, there is a standoff between the families of the hostages and the Israeli government. Morgan?
Yeah, that frustration certainly growing there. James Longman in Tel Aviv, Israel. James, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.